You know, there's a conversation many men over 60 quietly avoid, one that stays behind closed doors, whispered about, if at all. But today, we're bringing it into the open, because ignoring it can do more harm than you realize. I'm talking about masturbation, specifically the common mistakes men make after 60 that silently harm their health, confidence, and even relationships. Let me start with a story. A few months ago, a patient of mine, George, came into my clinic. He's 67, widowed for a few years, and told me he was doing everything right to keep himself healthy, eating clean, walking daily, even cutting back on sugar. But then he leaned in and said something many men his age say in a hushed tone. "Doc, I think I might be overdoing it. By myself." He said he didn't feel quite right afterward, fatigued, mentally foggy, and sometimes even anxious. What shocked him most was that he'd been following habits he thought were normal and harmless, habits he'd had for decades. I'm Dr. Nolan Easton, a urologist who spent over 30 years helping men over 60 reclaim their confidence, energy, and performance, not just in the bedroom, but in their day-to-day life. And what I've learned is that many older men are unknowingly sabotaging their sexual health by misunderstanding how their bodies change with age. What might have worked fine at 30 can be a very different story at 60 or 70. See, the male body doesn't just slow down with age, it adapts. Your testosterone levels, your circulation, your recovery time, all shift in ways that affect not only how often, but how you should engage in self-stimulation. But here's the thing, no one talks about this. Men assume if it felt good before, it must still be good now. And that's where silent harm begins. When George described what was happening, low energy, poor sleep, a sense of emptiness afterward, I knew right away it wasn't the act itself that was the issue. It was how he was approaching it. Many men his age use masturbation not as a healthy release, but as a form of stress relief, distraction, or even out of habit, unaware that this can condition their brain and body in damaging ways. Over time, this pattern can dull sensitivity, disrupt hormonal balance, and even lead to something called pleasure fatigue, where your body stops responding the way it once did. Now, this isn't about shame or guilt, far from it. Masturbation is a natural, healthy part of being human, no matter your age. But it becomes harmful when it's done without awareness of what your changing body needs. Just like your muscles need a different workout routine after 60, your sexual system needs a different rhythm and level of care too. As George and I worked through his habits, we discovered some small adjustments that made a massive difference. Within weeks, he reported better sleep, improved focus, and more satisfying experiences, not just physically, but emotionally. It wasn't about stopping, it was about understanding. And that's exactly why I'm sharing this with you today. Because if you're watching this, chances are you've noticed changes too. Maybe you don't feel that same spark or satisfaction you once did. Maybe you're tired afterward in a way you never used to be. Or maybe you're wondering if it's still healthy to do it at all. Whatever your situation, you're not alone, and you deserve honest, compassionate answers from someone who's seen it all and understands. Before we go deeper into this, I want to pause for a moment. If this topic feels relevant to you, if something in what I've said so far hits home, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the bell icon so you never miss these important men's health conversations. And if you're comfortable, leave a simple yes or no in the comments to let me know if this message resonates with you. I actually read those responses. They help me shape what we talk about next so I can better serve men like you. When George first walked into my office, he looked tired, not sick, but weary in a way that went deeper than the body. A few months later, when he returned for a follow-up, he looked brighter. "Doc, I didn't know something so private could affect me this much." His story isn't unusual. I've seen men rediscover vitality, confidence, and peace simply by understanding how to work with their changing bodies instead of against them. The truth is, your body is giving you signals all the time, gentle warnings that something needs attention. The key is knowing how to listen, and that's where we'll continue next, because the most common mistakes older men make when it comes to masturbation aren't always physical. Sometimes they're mental and emotional, rooted in decades of conditioning that no longer fit the life you're living today. When George and I started talking about what was really going on, I noticed something right away. He wasn't struggling with his body alone. He was struggling with his mind. And that's one of the biggest mistakes men over 60 make when it comes to masturbation. They treat it like a mechanical act rather than an emotional one. See, for most men, sexual habits formed decades ago, in their 20s or 30s, when energy levels were high, recovery was quick, and hormones were on your side. Back then, it might have been something done quickly, maybe even out of boredom or stress. But when you're over 60, that same pattern can backfire. Your body is slower to replenish hormones like dopamine and testosterone, and your nervous system reacts differently. That quick relief many men chase can actually leave them drained, foggy, and emotionally flat the next day. George told me that after each time, he felt a strange mix of satisfaction and guilt. He said, "It's like I'm relaxed for a few minutes, but afterward, I just feel off, almost sad." And I told him what I tell every man his age: it's not just in your head, it's chemical. Every time you release, your brain floods with feel-good chemicals. But if it happens too often or without emotional connection, those same chemicals crash just as quickly, leaving you worse off than before. This is why I encourage older men to slow things down, to reconnect with the purpose of intimacy, even when it's self-intimacy. See, masturbation isn't meant to be a race, it's a form of self-care. But after 60, the wrong approach can cause the body to interpret pleasure as stress. Your adrenal glands, already overworked from decades of life, start releasing cortisol, the stress hormone, which lowers testosterone and makes you feel fatigued. I'll never forget when George looked at me and said, "Doc, I didn't realize I was using it to cope with loneliness." That moment changed everything for him, because many older men, especially those who've lost a partner or feel isolated, turn to self-pleasure not for connection, but for escape. It's a coping mechanism, and while it might bring comfort, it also reinforces the feeling of being alone. The brain starts linking relief with isolation, which can deepen emotional withdrawal over time. So, one of the first things we worked on was intent. I asked George to pay attention to why he felt the urge. Was it because he was genuinely aroused, or because he was stressed, bored, or disconnected? Just that awareness alone began to shift things. When he started choosing moments that felt emotionally calm rather than reactive, his body responded differently. He felt more energy, less fatigued, and even noticed an improvement in his mood. If you're watching this right now and thinking, "That sounds a bit like me," then I want to gently encourage you to take note of your patterns too. Are you doing it out of habit or out of connection? Because this small awareness can make a world of difference in how your body reacts. And if you're finding value in this message, if it's helping you see things a little differently, go ahead and click that like button. It lets me know you're here, that this is helping. And leave a quick yes or no in the comments below. I truly read your responses, and they guide me in creating the kind of men's health videos that matter most to you. Now, back to George. Once he became aware of his emotional triggers, we started addressing the physical side, the second major mistake many older men make: overstimulation. Most men don't realize that after 60, their nerves and circulation in the pelvic region are more sensitive to repeated stimulation. What used to feel good can, over time, cause desensitization or even mild nerve fatigue. It's like overusing any muscle. It starts to respond less and less. We changed his approach completely.
I told him to focus on slower, mindful stimulation, avoiding the rush that his younger habits had taught him. At first, he laughed and said, "Doc, this feels silly." But after a week, he called and said, "I don't know what's happening, but I feel alive again." That's the thing. It wasn't just about the act, it was about retraining his brain and body to communicate again. And that's what I want for every man watching this. To understand that your body is still capable of pleasure, but it requires care, patience, and a new kind of respect for the changes that come with age. You don't lose your sexuality as you grow older. It just asks to be treated differently. When George finally realized this, he said something that stuck with me. "Doc, I thought I was broken. Turns out I was just out of tune." That's exactly right. And for many men, it's not too late to
As George's story unfolded, something remarkable started to happen. Once he slowed down, reconnected with intent, and began to treat his body like an ally instead of a machine, his energy returned. Not overnight, but gradually, steadily. What had once felt draining began to feel restorative again. And this brings us to the third major mistake I see older men make: ignoring recovery. At 60, 70, or beyond, recovery time isn't what it used to be. Not for muscles, not for sleep, and not for sexual energy. The male body needs time to rebuild testosterone, replenish dopamine, and reset the nervous system after release. But many older men, out of habit, continue the same frequency or intensity they maintained in their younger years. They don't realize that their system is now asking for more rest, more space between stimulation. I remember George saying, "Doc, it's strange, I feel guilty if I skip a few days, like I'm losing something." I smiled and told him, "You're not losing anything, George. You're restoring balance." Because the truth is, overuse can quietly lower your baseline energy levels. Your body becomes desensitized to dopamine, meaning it takes more effort to feel the same level of pleasure, and eventually that dulls your motivation, focus, and even your drive for intimacy with others. Now, some men hear this and immediately think, so should I stop altogether? And my answer, always, is no. Not unless your body's telling you to. What matters is quality over quantity. When you give your body enough time to recover, something powerful happens. Your sensitivity returns. Your erections become stronger. Your mood stabilizes. You begin to feel connected again, both physically and emotionally. George's routine changed completely. He went from several times a week, mostly out of habit, to a mindful, intentional rhythm that gave his body time to rebuild. Within a month, his energy was higher, and he even reported waking up with natural morning erections again, something he hadn't experienced in years. That's how responsive the male body can be when it's given the right care and rhythm. And this ties into another hidden mistake, using pornography as a substitute for real stimulation. I've seen this countless times in my practice. Many men, especially after 60, rely on visual stimulation to get things going. But what they don't realize is that as the brain ages, it becomes more sensitive to overstimulation, especially to artificial dopamine spikes caused by screens. What feels exciting in the moment can quickly desensitize the brain's pleasure receptors, leading to what we call arousal mismatch. You may find it harder to respond naturally, even to real intimacy, because your brain becomes trained to expect constant novelty. George admitted that he had fallen into this pattern too, especially during the pandemic. It became easy, comforting even, but also isolating. When he reduced his screen use and focused on physical awareness instead, he said something beautiful. "It feels more real now, more connected, even when it's just me." That's the kind of shift I hope more men can experience, from mechanical release to mindful connection. Because what's truly damaging isn't the act of masturbation itself, it's the disconnection from yourself that can come when it's driven by habit or impulse. And if this message resonates with you, if you're seeing yourself somewhere in George's story,
I'd love to hear from you. Tap that like button, subscribe to this channel, and leave a simple yes or no in the comments below. It helps me understand what's hitting home for you and what topics you'd like me to cover next. I truly do read them, and they make a difference in shaping these conversations. Let's talk about one more subtle but important mistake, something that most men don't even realize they're doing. It's what I call tension without awareness. As men age, they often carry stress, frustration, or loneliness in their bodies, especially in the pelvic muscles. Without realizing it, they tense up during self-pleasure, holding their breath, clenching their core, or rushing toward climax. That kind of tension, repeated over years, can actually impair blood flow and contribute to performance issues. When I taught George to breathe deeply and relax his muscles, to slow everything down and pay attention to the sensations instead of chasing them, his body responded instantly. "Doc," he said after a few weeks, "I didn't know it could feel this peaceful." And that's exactly the point. The goal isn't just release, it's renewal. It's about using those moments to restore yourself, not deplete yourself, to connect with your body, not escape from it. Because after 60, your body still craves intimacy, but it craves balance even more. When you begin to understand that, everything changes. Your hormones begin to stabilize, your energy stops dipping in the afternoon, you sleep better, and your confidence returns. George walked in tired, drained, and uncertain. But as he made these small shifts, slowing down, resting, breathing, and reconnecting, he began to feel something he hadn't felt in years, alive. And that transformation is possible for every man watching right now. When George came in for his final checkup, he looked like a different man. His posture was straighter, his skin tone brighter, and his eyes had that unmistakable spark, the kind that says, "I'm back in control." He told me, "Doc, I don't feel guilty anymore. I feel balanced." And that's when I knew he'd truly understood the lesson, that self-pleasure after 60 isn't the problem. The problem is how disconnected most men have become from their bodies. And that brings us to perhaps the most overlooked mistake of all, ignoring emotional connection. As men age, the body's needs shift from physical release to emotional nourishment. But most men don't realize this. They're still chasing the quick fix they relied on in their younger years, a fast physical act that ends in a moment of relief. But what they don't realize is that as the brain ages, it becomes more sensitive to overstimulation, especially to artificial dopamine spikes caused by screens. What feels exciting in the moment can quickly desensitize the brain's pleasure receptors, leading to what we call arousal mismatch. You may find it harder to respond naturally, even to real intimacy, because your brain becomes trained to expect constant novelty. George admitted that he had fallen into this pattern too, especially during the pandemic. It became easy, comforting even, but also isolating. When he reduced his screen use and focused on physical awareness instead, he said something beautiful. "It feels more real now, more connected, even when it's just me." That's the kind of shift I hope more men can experience, from mechanical release to mindful connection. Because what's truly damaging isn't the act of masturbation itself, it's the disconnection from yourself that can come when it's driven by habit or impulse. And if this conversation has opened your eyes or given you something to think about, tap that like button, subscribe to this channel, and leave a simple yes or no in the comments below. It helps me understand what's hitting home for you and what topics you'd like me to cover next. I truly do read them, and they make a difference in shaping these talks. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with this thought. Aging doesn't take away your masculinity, it deepens it. You're not losing strength, you're gaining wisdom. You're learning to connect with your body in a way younger men can't understand yet. And when you give your body patience, respect, and awareness, it rewards you with vitality, calm, and confidence. When George left my office for the last time, he said something that sums this up better than any medical advice ever could. "Doc, I used to think getting older meant giving things up. Now I see it's about doing them better. So take that wisdom with you today. Don't fear the changes, learn from them. Don't rush your body, listen to it. Because the key to staying healthy sexually and emotionally after 60 isn't about fighting age, it's about flowing with it.